Hello, wonderful folks. Welcome and welcome back to Epistemic-gnomes. So we are getting here back and solving some few problems, remaining problems. And here I finally solved this thing. It was just simple. Just I had made some conceptual mistake, and actually the control bone of the I added a stretch to bone constraint of it. Of course, you can't stretch to bone constraint in bones which have parents like target its child and stuff like that. So it was just a stupid mistake that was causing dependency cycle and ruining everything. And but more important than that, that was just easy finding. I had to remove the tweaks that I made a lot of tweaks here, double tweaks in the joints, the main joints, wrist, elbow, and shoulder, but no need to duplicate this actually. Just added, so remain these new tweakers. And so the name here, yeah, we can actually simplify this. So instead of tweak 2, just tweak is fine. Yeah, so the deforms are horrible. So essentially it's just a this and this this is the big mechanism as it was before, and these are the small mechanisms. So it's easy because this is mechanism for arm, this is mechanism 001 and 002, right? And same here. But when we move the bigger ones, so this is accumulating target function of this stretch to bone constraint as well as this stretch to bone constraint. So I don't need an extra target for, so it was not needed. Of course we could have set, but the idea is that as we carry the whole upper arm here or the whole lower arm here, we have this this is as my rig was before. Then by adding this, now we can tweak a bit more, right? And so now it's a question of making this better. Now we're gonna implement the same system for the legs. That is partially implemented, just have to make the fixes here. And also there is something wrong probably about there's probably something that went wrong with the skeleton rig. Yeah, so probably I have to revise some targets here. Let's first start the ones of the bendy bones. Okay, yeah, it's like I need to follow now that I have two bendy bones, right? I need to indeed, if it's following a mechanism, it needs to be the smaller mechanism because we're going lower scale here. So here this one is parented to mechanism upper arm. Yeah, the two here. We see it, and the names, yeah, those names, they would be a bit confusing. I prefer to leave it like this for now, but this will, yeah, this is a bit annoying. Okay, so parent here, no, not this one, going to end handle mechanism forearm. the 001, which is correct. This one starts the mechanism shoulder, that's correct. And end handle, absolute mechanism 2 upper arm, which... Okay, so there's a problem here with the name, so instead of mechanism 2, just mechanism. There we go. This will change automatically then. Now this maybe we need to this should be useful. For more bendiness, right? Handle, shoulder, what's happening here? Looks like we've lost some mechanism, upper arm. Okay, so apparently we don't need these handles anymore. I don't remember any system here, so it's not... Yeah, it's probably old. Then... Okay, it's following that. Although it could be better to have this tweak there, but okay, this just works, right? I seem not to be able to control the shoulders very well. Well, actually, yes, we have this other control. So this tweak is just not that good currently. Maybe I have to do something about it. Anyways, it works, but this is not the main controller for the... Okay, and since we are editing this, we're gonna resymmetrize this. As for this, we want to have... Okay, this is correct, so symmetrize. Now this one, parent mechanism for arm 001 is correct, and parent mechanism for arm, this is correct. And so here, why don't we do this? Let's try this. No, it already has got this. So apparently it's all becoming very bendy in both directions. So here if we do automatic, maybe it's better automatic, I don't know. We can still, at least for these ones. It's very subtle. Here we see okay, but because of the tweaking, let's just do this bendy. Okay, so this upper arm 002, forearm 002, that's correct. And then here, forearm and wrist handle. And here indeed I have a dedicated handle for... But maybe this is not necessary since this is part of the pin fingers. It's not necessary. unless the orientation of this bone is different. No, it's not. Oh, maybe it is. Yeah, it is. So the orientation matters. We can't do this for maybe well, no, these bones, they are all have this kind of orientation, so this seem right. Okay, but we can't delete this. I don't have the other one now. Well, right. Okay, so apparently I've lost some settings. We're just gonna resymmetrize, but this, yeah, because this one is z-axis up, so this matters for this this feature. Okay, let's symmetrize this. Then we're gonna what's happening to this bone? It seems the operator seems direction from this to this. Yes. Okay, I need to see where this bone is. The bone doesn't seem to exist. It appears here. This looks like a terrible bug. Well, there's nothing special about that bone. Let's just duplicate it. And now it works. All right, so that's it. I wanted also to change. Okay, it looks like there's a invisible bone somewhere. Ah, I see what's happening. It's obvious. I had the bone is here. It was just not in a wrong. Yeah, so I'm gonna remove this. It was just in a wrong collection. Let's move this to the deform. Clone to the mechanism skeleton. No. Clone to the deform skeleton. There. Now we pick this. Let's get this one. There we go, and just making sure symmetrized. There we go. Now it should be correct. All right, now we have here, do we have handles here? Yes, we probably have. These handles, right? So we're gonna get. So let's start from the top. So first thing, this was the original. We need to expand it. Let's get its tail there and set. So now we parent this one to it. No. This is how that works. There are probably various ways to do this. Tweak shoulder, yeah. So they have the yes. So no mechanism to mechanism, actually tweaker rig. This one, so changing these colors. Okay, so we parent this one to the tweak hips, already done. Same this one to the tweak hip, already done. Then we pick this one, parent to this one, already done. We got this joint, we're gonna there. Then we parent the big one to this, done. It was done already. Same here, already done, and this two already done. So now the stretch 2. So basically we pick this. Let's see what was the mechanism foot. Okay, so this system is different. For specific reasons, so we need to adapt. So probably here we also stretch to here, reset. So the same target for both. Then this one gonna so we can just to make it, can remove this and stretch to, there we go, reset. Yeah, already done. The boots are not wave painted properly, but this part seems ready. And oh yeah, this one needs to be parented to not the control shin, but to the big. Yeah, the names are incorrect, so we're gonna fix this. So first we're gonna change this to style 001 to 002. Okay, so here we're gonna set name. .001. This one okay, wrong one, so we're gonna set name 002. Okay, why they are not? So this one will call strict characters here. There we go. Yeah, so this is tedious, but it's easier to build from scratch, right, than this fixing, right? So here we start by okay, let's leave like this. Then this we're gonna now they got the right one. Yeah, but it's not over. We need to set this stretch to set this stretch to parent this correctly. I think here we already did that. Yeah. So this seems to not be following. It's still not correctly parented. There. Here we are missing. Yeah, I forgot to update this one, right? So this is my fake F key thing. We can do F key with that, but this is actually tweaker, right? But we can, to some extent, use a tweaker just as an F key. So here there is some, let's see what we can achieve here. We need to fix those things. So this one, I'll leave it as, okay, mechanist tie. Mechanist type 2, mechanist type machine 1, mechanist. Okay, these are correct. Just now let's get these things working. This is correct. This one looks correct. Yes. This one is correct. As for this one, yes, they are all bending. So just this one that doesn't have a proper orientation, but we could, if we do this, yeah, it will cause some, it will tend to, I believe, to have a strange, no, to be fair, that looks usable. So just the beginning here, just for shoulder and thigh, that this has automatic, right? Here I set to absolute for the upper arm, which is equivalent to the thigh. So here now we just need to symmetrize the appropriated bones. So let's resymmetrize everything, and then we are done in principle with this tweaker rig. Yeah, so I'm using mirrored posing because then we can see the results on. Yeah, there is a problem of wave painting apparently, or this is something about the maybe some helper bones are going crazy here. Yeah, here we go. So this thing is not following correctly, nor this. They got the old parent, right? Yeah, just a simple thing. So all this we need to reparent to the first one. Yes. Yeah. So the first one, it could be the bigger one, but no, let's do the first one. Maybe it's because if it tweaks, then it still follows that one, right? Okay. I forgot this one. So control tie. This doesn't sound appropriate. I wonder why I made this parenting. Probably because it would not answer. No, it answers, okay. Apparently. Okay, this is just some slightly experimental. That's an idea from CG Dive that I checked. Saying here, let's see. Mechanism upper arm. Right. Mechanism upper arm. These ones were not disrupted. This one we need to, it will be a physics bone that I'm not using right now. There's wiggle bones there. Okay, this one is correct. So here, the upper not upper arm, actually just the yeah, I think this is a better automation now. But I'm not sure, maybe something broke. It's just a detail, I can just delete that bone, but this now, I believe this should have fixed. How about this one? Mechanism forearm, yes, indeed. Oh, there it is. No, is a stretch. Where is the I key? So this is an I key target, but apparently it's no more an I key target. Master I key foot. Okay, so how come? Just see one bone there. Then there's map row. Yeah, so possibly what happens is that there was indeed an there used to be an I key there, but there's no more. I found apparently another way to do this. But I don't understand how this can leverage the control skeleton rig from the Shin. Like, yeah, it can leverage here, but it's not parented. Well, this bone actually, yeah, even if we grab it, yeah, something. No, wait, this is the, oh yeah, this is the IK target. No, but it's not correct. It can't be. Did I really did that? Okay. So the IK owner is here. So this is parent to the control Shin, and then it has the IK target towards this control bone. So this is the control IK target, but this is the control IK owner. What got me confused is that usually this IK, I use the octahedral for IK owner, right? So IK target, right? So that is what got me confused. So maybe stick, yeah, this would be better. And also maybe let's change this, or yeah, I need another indication for IK owners. So no, not this one, this one then. And as sticks, yes, there we go. So as we pose this, okay, that's why, because it's the IK target indeed. And this is not a good, I don't want this, what is this bone here? Probably something that survived some duplication. Okay, so what we need here is to reset this I won't dare changing the size of the this one, but I'm gonna adapt here. So they are more organized. Target I key leverage and call. So this is apparently no more. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna change this now. It's too boring to do this research. I think I simplified the system, right? And took off that I key bond constraint for the ankle leverage. Okay, so now that we got that fixed, let's get back to the here to our list, my list of stuff. We're gonna find solution to hierarchies. Yes, done. So now we go for the separator between noobs and pros. This is of course just joking, but the joints, skinning, the hardest joint usually to rig in a 3D character, the hips thigh joint. It's completely nightmarish. Like it's feasible, but the problem is that, yeah, also time to try to solve some artifacts. Actually, there are many joints to try to fix here because of this new system with bendy bones that had me add some new vertices here and there. Okay, but you see from here we got interesting. There are some clipping, but for the most part, yeah, here I need to improve this part is particularly difficult in the character design because there's something about the belly that is not leveraging properly. I'm still not sure what should be. Maybe the crotch needs to leverage also more. Plausible. That could help a little, but the crotch won't affect the belly, I think. And then, of course, the back bending, which is also another terrible problem if we want. And then, of course, there's outer side bend here. I've lost some quality after the... Yeah, we've lost some quality, but you can try to recover. And then there's this inner bending and side bending. Of course, best thing is try to... Oh, what's happening here? So... Okay, so we're having some things to solve here, but in this part, you see, it seems to be... Yeah, no, it's not working so well. It's not terrible, but I wanted this to be more exaggerated. And inner bending... Yeah, the inner bending seems fine. Because the leg is doesn't bend too much inwardly, usually, as far as I know. So there is a big strategy here that I'm not sure that I'm gonna use because the cost of doing that is really daunting for like retakes of the rig. But if that can work, if I find a agile way to go back and forth, we can... It's changing the rest position. The problem for me, it wasn't a problem until I figured out it was actually a problem. The problem of changing the rest position, I usually look like for a neck pose, is that not only it's cumbersome to rig structures. We need to make some warp uh, warp map systems to get the character back to like a T-pose like this. But it's for the character design, because no one will, well, it's not super very good to model a character. To model also is bad. It's also bad for the control rig and the mechanisms, because things are not aligned with workspaces. So it's like it makes things way more complicated than they need to be. While the T pose is the more regular. I don't like the A pose. For me, the I pose is a noobish stuff, because I don't understand the advantage in terms of skinning. It's completely stupid, because if you relax the arms like that, okay, you might have a better pose like this, which can be useful. But if you put the arm up here, it's much worse. The artifacts you'll get in the shoulder region here than the T-pose. So it's not even the center of the arcs of motion of the limbs. The center of arc of motion for the limbs would be something like a frog pose. I've already calculated this. It's called neo-Vitruvianism, like Leonardo da Vinci, right? I have some. And so basically, the problem is that here already I have to find a way to match the. I could do blind behavior. Yeah, like, okay, we need to realign now. You have to make the foot straight or not straight, because it's a. So I say it's tricky. There are many things, but this is not the worst part. This is, you have usually, ideally, we need to calculate this angle that we are making here of rotation, maybe. Yeah, like 30 degrees angle, maybe that's fine. This one is not necessary, maybe don't need to, or actually I could use this one instead. Yeah, this is a ballistic rotation. I'm not sure this will be a good idea, but yeah, anyways, let's assume that we got something. Also, the limbs should be bent halfway, because it's the, yeah, so you see, it's a lot of work to adjust those things, and there will be some problems with lots of things to take into account. But the great advantage this is that it makes the skinning much better spontaneously, and then we can have even better results in skinning. So maybe doing some setup for the T-pose as the rest position as I have, it's a waste of time and energy, because you can have a spontaneous starting that is much better than the T-pose and A-pose. So if I remember correctly here, the center, no, hold on, we're gonna start, so it's something like here. It depends also what do we want the character to do in terms of posing, right? The hand should be straight because it's intermediate joint. the wrist so it bends in all directions almost the same way, so it should be centralized. But and here I'm bending the arm because then I can have about in the middle, right? So I have much better spontaneous skinning from this already. But it should not be like that. I think the I don't quite remember how it, yeah, it was something like this. Why is not adapting? Yeah. The spine can stay like that. It doesn't need to bother just so at least I haven't touched these other bones with. And then okay, so this is just one part of the problem. If you got this, then we let's say that we accept this rest position. I'm even gonna save a backup here. Okay, so here comes other problems. Is I have several meshes, right? And the process needs to be done with all the meshes, at least the ones that are being transformed, and like all the costumes are being affected. So basically that means that even the boots, yeah, they should, then all that work there will be compromised. Well, but it is reversible, right? So the thing is that what I could try to do is to, we're gonna create some marker bones here. Of the original pose for these bones which are that we are using to control just one side seems to be okay. There I won't move that. Maybe I don't need anything else. Yeah, maybe we don't need this. Yeah, we don't need this. Because these are the original positioning, although yeah, also, although there is some so I'm not recommending this method, but I want to see, because after a very long time, maybe there's a it's more reversible, it's easier to reverse if needed than I was usually thinking. So maybe it's not that terrible. Okay, so it's clear that these bones, they should intake what happens to these bones in terms of well, I was thinking about the leverage of this. Doesn't matter. Let's just get these ones then. Oh no, this doesn't have a leverage system. Okay, it's actually just the hand, right? Maybe I shouldn't be posing this also, it will make things more complicated. So this is just for a test. Okay, it's very messed up. We can do better than that, but for the test it should be fine. Okay, so it's so complicated to do this that I need to think so before. Okay, so if you see the resetting pose, there are just a few control bones that are changing. The body, the torso, the head are not changing essentially. It's just about the limbs, which this helps a lot. It means that certain pieces of, like the hair, some objects I don't need to transform. But certainly the body, yes, the whole body, since the face and head is part of the body as well. But like these clots, yeah, no, the arms are affecting here. This also, the boots. So maybe even this is being affected. So a lot of clots to do this. So the method, let's just do for this, right? So basically Do we duplicate first? I don't remember. I should have seen a tutorial first, but oops, looks like that I've resetted the pose. Yeah, I resetted the pose. So here, basically, we need to pick the bones that we want to apply this transformation. So just 4 bones. The problem is that they will affect all their children bone. So let's first see what this will do to the rig in the rest position, right? For the skeleton, right? So if I pick these bones and pose, apply selected as rest pose. Okay, let's ignore the artifacts, but here this is many structures have moved. This is probably related to, but not everything has moved. So this is actually, this can be an advantage. Well, the fact that the control shin bone didn't move, it's not a good thing. So now what we have is that yeah, there is a warping here. And this is because the deformed rigs, many structures of the feet, they have stayed. Yeah, it's so there's more to okay, apparently I lost the select. So there are, I could apply for the entire rig, but this could ruin certain positions, I guess. Let's see. There's also this operator which I don't understand. That if apply final constraint position of bones to their transforms. So maybe this one would include more stuff. Here I tried certain things, but I couldn't discover the difference, what this thing does. I would suspect that, well, this is about the bone constraints pathway of transform, that this is just about the parenting relation pathway of transforms. So let's see if that's any difference to this. So apparently here nothing has been applied. So it's not even working. So let's try with everything. There was a change, but it doesn't appear here. It's something that appeared when you select all the bones. So this looks like the leverage system. Visual transforms. This is the only thing that moves. Seems it starts to stack some stuff, right? Anyways, let's apply pose everything as response. Okay, so when we do this, now this is more usable because, yeah, first this will probably cause wreak havoc to, yeah, to a lot of stuff here. Got displaced, and here very badly. I believe this breaks the X value. Discovered some developers, they found out that even it's 0, sometimes it's not 0. So I can discover this now. If I get this shoulder here, there's a bug. Or not a bug, but yeah, there's an inconsistency. So here if I resymmetrize this bone, yeah, this one just got disconnected. It didn't symmetrize properly because this is no more in the center of the plane because of the applied transforms. So indeed, I was not wrong about this thing. This operator is deadly to certain specificities of the rig. So it's not good to apply for like the spine bone. So maybe I need just to apply to the bones which are like this kind of structure here, right? And of course, this is super tedious and complicated, right? So now it's nightmarish. Because if I select all the rig, that all the bones, okay, it's easier, but got a lot of problems. And of course we can manually reposition, but let's say that I would do this one here, not even sure what should I take. Yeah, it's a nightmare. So we gonna apply here, maybe whatever. Yeah, just testing here some stuff. So if we apply this stuff here, then we have to apply the, I think I did the wrong order, right? So actually first we need to get the meshes, right? We need to duplicate this, apply whichever of them. That cannot apply with shape key, okay. All right, and then from this point, we got to get the bones back and apply. Okay, so apparently now what we got is that I just select certain bones. So this, okay, it's broken as well. So maybe I selected this bone. Well, I didn't select the spine, so the operator broke the rig. Okay, now I get all the bones in orientations that are stupid. Curiously, the helper rigs didn't broke. I had some experience in which this system, yeah, so they reset, right? So this is good. They didn't start like already changed, so this is good. Now actually here they seem to have been affected. Yeah, they are affected, but this is actually good because well, it's already okay. So let's say that we have this, then we need to make the T-pose back. So for this we need to use back this information here and get this bone here to there, and also this bone so it remembers a bit of key retargeting, right? Maybe. I don't know why it is. Okay, because it's down. Okay. Of course, we need to. What's happening here? What is this thing? Mechanism I keep foot. Okay, so what's happening is that it's not sufficient for all the bones. For the arms, it seems that it worked. It worked a bit better. But what's happening for the yeah, so of course this bone needs to follow up, and this is where we need yeah, it needs to be actually warped into the, because currently, yeah, it has a parent, or maybe this bone in particular as the control rig. No, it's part of the control rig. So this one is a bit tricky. How will I get it? Yeah, so I need to use another target. Control I key target leverage ankle, okay. So I see. Where are you? I key target leverage ankle. Oh. Okay, it got displaced, I think, from the original. But okay, it's this bone here, and it spares the master Aiki foot, so this bone, I should probably place it there. And maybe that it will be enough. But the alignment, I think it's not this. And we're still having some problems. Yeah, definitely we are. Somehow the character is not. The legs seems to have been excessively stretched by some and no event. I know this doesn't seem to be matching also. So I see each kind of rig to do this like this would have its own specificities. So essentially, I have to maintain the deform rig, the helper deform rig, and the mechanism rig here, and I need to have a target rig in here that will immediately push all these lower hierarchy structures, skeletons, into the skeleton of the T-poles. So possibly I could leave the main skeleton, the blue one, in this place as long as I have. So the more organized way to do this is to have a target rig, target skeleton is specialized just in warping, doing the warp. So that will simplify the stuff. But still, these parts will always be very intricate because sometimes you need to. I've done this. Took me a lot of time to figure out a technical way for another rig that is not exactly this one. It is relatable, but so I had to, because there's the foot bone. That was actually the traditional, conventional leverage of the heel, and that implies that a certain bone here needs to be very specific with its parenting relation. But my system here is different, so it makes this perhaps much easier. But I was successful with that conventional mechanism rig because that foot mechanism bone, or the guitar, there's something about the parenting and the orientation of the bone, and then you have to know if it's parent or if it's self or if another bone, which one should warp with copy transformed. It's super complicated, but maybe in this rig it will be much easier. I believe it's easier, but I have to study. So you see, there are a lot of problems. Now let's try to reverse that and see if there's any chance that we can. Actually, how do I even reverse that if I've lost the structures? Yeah, let's of course this will not work. So definitely it's not very. So if you have many clothes or mesh objects to do this, then you just do the same step here for each. We can apply all simultaneously, I think, if you select many things. In this case, I have an extension that does this shape keys keeper. Super fundamental in certain workflows. What we're working today, boss? Welcome, Carlos. So also, do you have an Instagram or Twitter account? Twitter, yes, but there's nothing there too much thrilling. To be fair, I couldn't find my way there. I have an account, but I don't know how to Instagram. I'm trying to build one, but there's no content yet. But I'll remember to get you that. Thanks for a question. So the first today, if you look at the beginning of the stream, if you're interested, I showed the solving of this the tweaker here. Here I'm just trying to see the scope, just have an insight, a glimpse of how, if I should use a technique that is this thing of changing the rest position, like so, of the character, and by changing the rest position of the character, we can have immediately, spontaneously better or worse skinning. So here Okay, I've applied here, and here we have this madness. Let's just apply this on here. Okay, I'm just checking if the rig is reversible. So yeah, you see the mesh changed position back and forth from some frog pose. Just I had this trouble with the legs here that probably related to the setup of the feet, which I couldn't advance foot rig, which I wasn't able to solve in this particular case rapidly, right? So it required better study. But apparently, if we check the mesh quality, the mesh didn't seem to be very distorted. Yeah, somewhat it is, right? So we had some preservation of the mesh. Well, yeah, so things can go completely wild here, and this is horrible. So not gonna save this. So I know the method is, so this is the frog pose, right? That I was trying to get. But it's super cumbersome. So I think we could do for the fingers, but even that is bad for the character design, at least the one that I have. Let's remove all this stuff. So yeah, it's like, it's a deadly amount of work. I think it doesn't compensate. Unless we are doing this with a very simple rig, like a deform rig. Yeah, so if we just have a sort of a deform rig and a target rig with not a lot of features, then it's much simpler to use, and not tons of mesh objects and setups, weird setups. Then yes, this is so this for me is fundamental, because now I know that this I won't be using that method, neo-Vitruvianism, for this project, because besides all these other problems which we can fix to some, right, there's the problem of the character design. The rest position of the character doesn't match the character design, so it's very bad to remodel certain aspects of the character or refer to the character design, which is T-pose usually for me, right? And then you end up with another pose that it's very sad, because that technique is super powerful for skinning, but it's rig havoc for re-rigging, maintenance of the rig, of the rigs, right, of the skeletons. And also another problem that I found is it is very bad for the model sheet, right? And I like to be able to re-edit my model sheet, right, to assess the character design, right? So, and this method of skinning doesn't really help in that. It is counterproductive. As powerful as it is, it's nightmarish for various reasons. So it could help fixing lots of skinning artifacts more easily. That's this thing. Okay, don't matter here. Where is the model sheet? Okay, so here, yeah, I have some sketches. Do we have the hair somewhere? I think I've remove the hair for this. Yeah, so assessing all this stuff, right? So you can sure remodel certain parts of the character, even on the rest position with that with the technique of this thing, right? So even if we can do this to try to play with this model sheet problems, but still it will be problem if you go to directly to the base mesh and then you realize that your fingers are bent, your limbs are bent. So it's a overwhelming, the kinds of challenge it poses. So I think it's not gonna work it. So let's find something else to play here. So I just gonna take a note for myself. Remember this disgrace that today is 26, right, already here. So expose now. So this is the okay, so let's see what fun we can get here. Basically, IT leverage helper bone setup. Yeah, it should be time to fix this, or I go for the face rig again. There are some things to address there. I feel like I need to fix this first for the body. Okay, let's start with the shoulders then, because there are some things here, some stuff here that I want to revise. So we need to look for the leverage here. Okay, so this system here there are some motion here which seems to be a bit exaggerated on the breast region, boobs, so maybe something here that yeah, these deforms matter. See, there's some amount of artifacts near there, the armpit. Apparently this mesh is too sharp. Yeah, should be more rounded. Also, this mesh geometry here seems a bit wrong. The arrangement seems terrible. Here, what we have in this part is that yeah, it's smoother here. Yeah, it's hard to do low poly here, and of course it had some complications. Maybe the topology is not helping. I need perhaps more volume in that, in around this yeah, this bridge. Now it's a little better. Yeah, I think this helps, but the artifacts actually they appear more when you move this back. Yeah, there we go. So one thing that I need to check here is, of course, the Okay, so some bone here is being carried, I think. Yeah, it's a tweaker. So maybe I need to readjust this influence. Yeah, it's not that the motion is ideal, but it makes some sense, right? So we're gonna accept this, symmetrize. Then I need one thing that I wanted to do in this leverage here. Yeah, there's the wave paint, but I want also to check if I can simplify these targets here. Maybe not in this case, I don't know, this is risky, so let's save. So my plan was to bring these bones all together. Yeah, so basically they are parents to the mechanism upper arm, all of them, right? So it's pretty simple, but they are not being targeted at the same spot. And this spot of targeting usually is important for what they are doing. But maybe we can, yeah, let's try to simplify. The problem is comparing this is very hard. I hate to do this. This is very distractive. Okay, so whatever. So we're gonna use this one, okay, as the original. Let's like do a RXX 40. RXX 40. So in order to do this, let's get so we're gonna delete this. We're gonna move this in sort of a more central position. And then we're gonna pick this name. And we're gonna change these targets yeah, there's some distortion of the, well, not so much here, about. And the clavicle, there is not too much to it, so it's probably feasible. Especially if I added, yeah, I'll have to make some changes perhaps to adapt to the system. Like, it's a simplification that, right, I think it might be better. Yeah, small cost to it, but I think it will be worth it. So we have the backup, so but I need to be a bit careful about how we're gonna handle the approximation. Yeah, maybe I'll need another bone to make the adaptation. So let's currently leave this as non-deformed bound, right? Augment the chain length, remove this one. This one is okay. Um, okay, so maybe something like this. What about here? Yes, so apparently the system of simplification worked with added this. It's not too serious. We have just to think what to do with these ones. Maybe no. Yeah, this is a good idea. So you can, yeah, new idea for this system. This is very abstracting that we need to do work here, but essentially, if you combine well these settings, then we can get a very interesting automation. Here I decided to have just one here for this entire part, but maybe it's not. Yeah, so there's, and the good thing about this method, the leverage system, is that IT bone constraint leverage system for a helper bones setup is that these are not a, this is a smart system. It's, if we build it smart enough, it's not affected by deltas. That means that Blender here gets smart enough to understand the diagonals, differently from what happens with shape keys usually, or from drivers or transformation bone constraint. Here we have a system that whichever direction we pose, the adaptation is spontaneous. Of course, it could be crappy if we are not careful. If we're not, it's time consuming to build the setup, to think, but it's not that hard. And that means that then we can get the deltas. We don't need to build deltas, the diagonals, X, Z axis, because it's a kind of setup with bones or in rig in general that doesn't need delta. So here, for example, the helper bones, which are the fan bones, it's a smart system as well. That isn't, yeah, it's smart. Basically, it understands deltas as well, so it understands the diagonal. So if I bend the leg here, the system will work anyways. If I bend the legs laterally, the system will understand what I want. If I bend diagonally here, it will also understand. So it will because it's just a copy rotation and X and Z axis. So this combines properly in all the orientations and all the directions of bendings. The bones will do their work, the helper bones. So it bypasses the problem of building deltas. And so when we build systems, setups like transformation bone constraint, sometimes I think I used to have here, but no more. But we can, apparently there are ways to build transformation bone constraint for delta 2, but sometimes I'm not sure, but depends on the case. If you are doing the transformation bone constraint rotation to rotation, that maybe possibly yes, because you can combine I'm not sure really. So anyways, it's good to have transformation bone constraint in some cases, but for the joint skinning, it's actually dumb to do that, because except in some cases, because then if you can't solve the delta, and often we can't solve the delta with just the transformation bone constraint, we might have to have corrective methods in addition to the single setup, so maybe multiple transformation bone constraint, just and with driver to make the product of the x and z axis in order to match the diagonal, because the analytic thing is overly analytic things. Oh, get the x-axis rotation. Yeah, okay, let's say the x-axis here, a simple joint, right? This one, okay. But what if I also want some transformation over here and here? Then okay, let's do another for there and there, the z-axis maybe. But then what if we have a diagonal combination? It's not the best example because it's the simple joint, but I've showed the example here with the thigh, right? So the diagonal will not, and this doesn't matter which kind of setup you're trying to build, and there is this diagonal, then of course there is this other diagonal, and this diagonal, even if we care. So there, it's essentially deltas are nightmarish, and so it's just, so I spend a lot of time once I understood that well, maybe there's a way to, there are some setups, helper rig setups in general, organic rigging, which can where delta is not needed. And indeed, I tried to track down some of these setups, and so the fan system is one of them, at least the fan system like this, because if you have shuttle bones in addition to this, even if they follow the rotation here, then we want one to go forward when in specific conditions, and these specific conditions are the problems, because they create the delta problem, because then for the specific condition of x-axis rotation of the thigh, this is not the thigh, let's say this is a fan bone which has its own automation, which is a smart one, it doesn't need delta. So then you want, for example, I want to fix this with, okay, so when the leg rotates, the thigh rotates up, rotates x negative or positive, I don't know what it is, then you have a bone, a shuttle bone that will move down or up or back and forth or left and right, and this you can do it very well with transformation motor. The problem is that, or driver or something like that, but the problem is that as you start to get this rotation of the leg, this is not anymore only the x-axis, and so the bone will sort of return when it should not. It should start to return to its original position, because it cannot understand that this is still something spatially that we want that effect on that amount of x rotation. So it starts to dismiss while it's still needed. So then you make the z-axis, but you lose, for the diagonal you lose all the controls. You have a low x, low z effect, and you have to make Blender understand. So Blender is completely dumb for these bone constraints that don't understand delta. They are overly analytical. So I tried to make a system, a bone that would be a delta recognizer, but it's tricky, and I was in the end not sure that that it would really be. It was not very intuitive in the end, and a bit painful, to be fair, and not. I think maybe there's better proposition for that, but so in the end, I've decided that this, in combination with fan bones, the simple fan bones, and this leverage system, you see there's just one here, so I simplified this, but this sort of, so this combines a rig that would be over analytical, like belly, buttock, and gluteus, belly, and side hip, pelvic side leverage system, combines that with the leverage of all this flesh here. And so it's, but this is not analytical in the sense of a transformation bone constraint, because it's Ike bone constraint automation. So with this automation, I don't need to pose this. Actually, what I need to do is just to make sure that I can pose this, yeah, still, but in principle, the idea here is to have the automation from all these mechanisms here that are working. This is a leverage, so these are non-deformed bones, but they are still in the Ike chain. And the hardcore thing of doing this, besides wave painting, of course, but wave paint is not the worst part. The worst part of, the most complicated part of this rig is that in order to make the setup, so I didn't make for the inner thigh, but I've made for the outer thigh, side out. I've made for the leverage leg front and leverage leg back. Leverage leg side out. Yeah, so essentially this was another leverage system, right? But this is the leverage system for the wait, what's happening here? Okay, it's that the bone was completely collapsed. So I need to improve, yeah, I need to keyframe, right? Gonna do the hard work now. So keyframe this, let's do a, yeah, I need the, probably I need this bone. So here we're gonna, so maybe I should redo the setup here, right? Because, I mean, just to readjust the setup. Try some different things, because I have changed the way, the position of this, right? So maybe here I have to attempt some variations. So this thing is like this because this will cause a specific effect. So these orient the direction of the collapse, because these bones, they are collapsing. And also I decided I want to make an inner one. But I'm not sure how. We never done it so with this system, so I'm not sure what I should be needing here. So this is not the first step of building the setup, right? Start small and then build more than later. I'm gonna reset the roles. So the roles are super important in this setup because we are gonna use the engine of the inverse kinematic settings according to the roles of the bones. So first, let me get everything here. We're gonna add a selection sets here. All these selection sets here, they are probably old. Yeah, so I don't trust this stuff. So we're gonna make selection set like I key leverage sign. There we go. So if I need to hide stuff, we can just recover this selection set later at any time, actually. So we're gonna change this to instead of side out, side in. And the names are all corrupt, so we're gonna strip characters. There we go. So this is the first, the second. This is a mechanism one, actually. Yes. Okay, there's no wave paint here. So because this is about the joint here and not the joint here, it's okay to end the system here unless we need more bones. The problem now is that we need to find the... Yeah, we need to create this some amount of automation here. To see what we'll get. So some exaggerations might break, so we need to be careful what we need to do about So I'm not sure why it looks like that the leg is completely squashed, so maybe this is something else. Yeah, better if I do this, be easier to assess the... Yeah, so there are a lot of artifacts even in the simple Okay, for now this is sufficient. This let's save this for now. Okay, so you see this behavior, it might not be very... So what we want in the inner thigh, it will be hard to tell if we don't... Maybe we want to... We don't want that. Or maybe we want that. How come this going back so much? Yeah, because I've made some changes here, so... Looks like that this is collapsing too fast. Maybe we need to... So here are some settings. So in principle, yeah, so some have IK stretch, some not. It really depends on the anatomy. So this is very... It's very... Each detail here matters. We could even use limit in some case, but I advise not start using limit because it gets... The first thing to start with is the roll. The ball roll, they can be anything actually, but the important thing is that we understand, okay, what is the roll that matters for calculation? Like, essentially it's about the z and the x-axis. Where do we want to roll to make something that will be more intuitive for the result? So for example, if I want... Let's start with this one, right? So usually, yes, z-axis pointing up. Let's see how we made the others. Usually the z-axis pointing out toward the mesh can be... Yeah, it's a pattern that I use. So in this case, maybe I want this to be like something like this, right? So it will be easier to calculate. As for the others, yeah, here also maybe we maintain the logic. Really is personal, right? You decide what do we want, but the fact is that if it doesn't fit well what we need, then it will just cause trouble. Yeah, okay, so let's try to see here. Actually, I think yeah, let's not keyframe anything else. Okay, so look how interesting when the leg leverages up, because this one is the only one which gets a Nike stretch, it can actually do some motion like this. So maybe this is not so good. So the orientation of stretching matters. Oh, actually they copied all the settings. Let's reset everything. This reset is bad. We have a problem here. some bones here. This usually is not 0, the default, so this is a problem in the yeah, I intend to fix this here because I don't like. So in principle, Control Shift V, so Control Shift V, Control Shift V. Actually, I didn't have a basis. Well, that fixed. It's just a shortcut like copy to selected, I think. Yeah, whatever. So these are completely locked, so they don't do anything except stretching. And their orientation matters because then you can decide to which direction the so in here, for example, maybe you could do the inversion here. Because in this way, we could force the inner thigh to move in that direction. But look how the inner thigh seems to be, and the leg leverage seems to be here. So maybe actually not only this, but maybe we want to preserve volume. I don't know why it is going in that direction. Because there is nothing here that should be. Yeah, of course, it's because of this, right? I had this idea, not sure if it's a great idea right now, but yes, so maybe we can do something a bit crazy here. This inversion I never tried. It seems that it got some. It have a wrong feedback in the end. It starts dropping. Yeah, like imagine there's an equation. So that's in a graph. It's not. Didn't know this thing, but. Of course, it's because of the motion of the leg. So we don't want this. It's too dangerous, too unpredictable, too hard to conceive something good with that. But we can still attend for this this case then. Okay, but this Ike stretch seems too much. Right, so if this is carrying the inner thigh, oh, I see why. It is too much to the back, this joint here. Okay, so maybe you want a Nike stretch here. No, more stiffness. No, yeah, we want some Nike stretch. So that will create some bulge there. And we want some stiffness in the X. So let's say Gx, yeah, it's constraint G. So the X is how the bone rotates, like here. Maybe we want more of that. And the Z axis is the bone rotating like here. So we don't want too much Z, I think. So you're gonna augment the stiffness of the Z, I don't know, something like here. And we see in real, we can see, not necessarily in real time, but playing, yeah, maybe. There is a ping pong thing, isn't that? I think this is just a it's not implemented yet, I guess. I just saw in some Blender live, Blender today thing. So also we could tell that let's create some. No, I already tried that, right? Putting this here, it didn't work. So we might not be able to count too much on this bone in order to wait, maybe we can do something like, where can it go? Maybe it could go more to the back. Yeah, so there's a, maybe we can do something like this. This one doesn't have IK stretch, so the one that has more IK stretch is the one that will stretch and squash the more according to the condition. So maybe I augment the. Now it seems to get the same problem there after I've made this rotation, so maybe it's not a good idea. So here I'm really not sure what should be best for this bone, but there is, maybe we need to expand. There are so many possibilities that it's bizarre, right? So by placing this bone something like here, maybe you have some good results here in terms of leverage. Let's see. Yeah, we don't need to use this, but I found it, because it's a leverage system in this case, more likely in a different fashion. I was not using this in the other rig, but the shoulder, but we could use that too. So now let's say that for this one we can lock everything. Let's see what happens. It will be very stiff, so it's not very good. It's not squashing or stretching, so maybe this one is interesting. And this one, maybe we reduce a little. Okay, that sounds start to be interesting. Let's go now to the wave paint, because these bones, they don't have any wave paint. We see that we have perhaps some waves which are not interesting to have around here. So we're gonna make some face loop selections here so we can start working with this this setup, right? Without some stupid mistakes, road waves. Okay, so this is a great way to start. So now we get, for example, this bone, which seems to have exaggerated waves. In here, we don't want these waves here. And possibly this bone is the front one. So you see, not so much influence on the a lot of influence here, but not too much in the as we approach to the inner thigh also. For some reason, apparently it was good to have until there, but maybe here it's a mistake. This is just one bone. We can make more divisions. Okay, but here, let's try building here. Let's see. So the inner thigh would be something like here. Oh yeah, it can also push the belly, but this is not very good because I have another bone for this. Yeah, actually, this is wrong. This is more about this region. I'm gonna paint like this first. And the inner thigh could also contain some waves here. Yeah. These are not bendy bones, but it's good to maybe not mix too much here. So we're gonna try to limit the how it advances. Now this bone already can provide this bone is a deformed bone. We can probably check this. Yeah, it is a deformed bone. So you see how this bone is already affecting the inner thigh, right? And now this is gonna be interesting. So what we can do about almost lost the selection. No, wrong bone. So just to compare, let's see. Yeah, I see how these waves are strong. I won't pick the center because in my experience this is not very good. Also, maybe we expand here. No, we're gonna just okay, let's get until here. Yeah, let's exaggerate here. Because exactly we want some belly leverage. We want to see what this has as an impact. So maybe that means that we can also expand a little here. It's just a little. So here we're gonna reduce these ones. Here we're gonna try to reduce this. Yeah, reducing all this part here. Okay, let's try this now to see what we got. You see that this seems to have an impact over the belly. It sounds interesting. And of course, it depends how this bone changes, right? We can't access, unfortunately, its effects from here, but this sounds valuable. You see that the fact that this bone is leveraging, this is helping to push. Not sure this is great, but it's helping to push this bone on that direction, towards that direction. And so that is also helping leveraging the belly, even though it's not. So we can maybe, what now if we try to augment the waves? This seems to push the belly inwards, and that might be very important. I don't know really why this is doing this effect, but let's use that bone so the positioning doesn't, it's important if it matches, but it doesn't really need to match in order to produce the effect. So this is really creating some sort of crease, which maybe here it will be good. But here it might not be that good. Here maybe we need to reduce the crease making for this bone. in this area here, the crotch. But we can sustain some for the belly, maybe more strain, maybe about here. This is already the domain of the front one. So, but since it's a cooperative system, right? It's relational, so maybe it can help better deform, but it starts to get confusing, right? So yeah, so this may be the good part is that, yeah, but you see what's this doing to the belly actually. Too strong. I think this is not. Maybe we need to add another bone for that particular motion. So let's reduce this once. So possibly I exaggerated a little here, and we don't need this competition here. Might not be, might be a bit counterproductive. And for the buttocks, I haven't checked really what the results are because I don't have the animation for the back bending. What is interesting is that this helps to preserve volume. This is helping to preserve volume in in that region, right? So the problem is that the wave paint is very messed up for the manipulation of bones. So here what we could do is to so the z-axis, yeah, maybe we okay, the z-axis here, stiffness on the x-axis, no. Actually, I don't know what is better here. It's because of this stretch here. It confuses the... Yeah, sometimes this kind of creepy thing happens because the automation is competing, right? So I don't think the X is too much important. I think this one, yeah, but okay. So I remember I wanted the I key stretch for this one. Maybe about here. Let's see if we can This is good to stretch a lot, apparently. And what about this one? So this one currently has nothing. No, that's not. Seems to be stretching, yeah, indeed. No. Yeah, it's just doing some stuff there. Let's see. Stiffness on the... Okay, the stiffness on the Z X seems to help. A little of this. The Y, I think, no, not the Y. Okay, something like this maybe. I don't know which one is more important. I think this Z sounds more important. And then I key stretch. No, we don't want this one to I key stretch. So in this way, yeah, there's a lot of volume loss here. But this is not because of this bone anymore, actually. This is because... Oh, no, maybe, yeah, actually, maybe it is. Look at all these waves. So too much influence in this part here. Could be other verts that are causing this other wave paint. Well, it's not terrible, but it doesn't seem to fit totally. Yeah, you see this. It might be useful to have some of this. It's not too bad, but I think we need some. Yeah, definitely there are other bones causing this thing. That is not the case. Maybe this one is even helping. But sometimes the best way to check something is just add crazy waves like this. Yeah, actually, this seems to not be a bad idea. Here, I think this is bad. I think it's bypassing to the other side. Not sure. Okay, it could be time to test. I'm not gonna pause keyframe, but no, so this is the let's see what happens in the inner thigh event. Yeah, lots of things broken here. But this was already broken. I should fix the base skeleton first anyways. No, it's leveraging some... It's not necessarily wrong, but this offsetting is a bit disturbing, right? How did that happen? Oh yeah, because I'm not looking at the... Okay, we need to add this to the selection set. I've lost the pose. Okay, we see that this seems to be doing a good job in terms of positioning, right? Adaptability, if we want something like that. Maybe, but now for the, let's see. Let's see this pose, what this is doing. Inner, yeah, side in, so here it is. It seems to be valuable, yes. It gives some, it doesn't seem to be disrupting neither from the front. Yeah, it seems to be well adapting to the, and you see you can even pose manually. This one's probably not, right? They are locked from iKey, but do I keep posing? Yeah, but you can pose them manually, right? Not important. This one we can pose, it's the iKey target. So you see this shape is pretty good in a pose like that. It's super hard. And this is because something here makes the some sort of inversion. It's completely crazy. That's why you have to calculate the certain amount of all that I was doing. I have to calculate something that this case I even don't remember why I used the limit. Actually, this limit seems useless. And so when we get Yeah, this where it shouldn't do any difference. I think I left there by accident. So there are a lot of tricky things here, right? But essentially it's just going for the lock. Sometimes you need to lock something, a small bone, sometimes it depends, right? These are totally locked, so you can't move them from the inverse kinematics. They are just for the leverage, non-deformed bones. And stiffness, right? Usually the Y stiffness is the least relevant because the inverse kinematics usually don't use so much is the least axis. It's very hard to manipulate the y-axis in a controllable fashion during key posing, my experience. Like sometimes it barely do anything. So adding stiffness to the y-axis is very circumstantial. It's when the bone starts to twist crazily, then you might want to lock like the y, lock a key for the y-axis, or instead of that. So here, for example, I had this stiffness here, but it doesn't apply. But applying is the y lock. So this overrides whichever you have here. And so for here, no limits. Why this? I don't understand why this is grayed off. Oh no, because yeah, now I see it's because this one is locked exactly. So it's like this shouldn't work anyhow. And while these are left unlocked here, so we could still use this in principle. So then, of course, you need to know the axis of the lot of. So this bone won't rotate, twist anyhow, nor this one, and this one can twist. It's the only one that is free to twist, but it has a lot of stiffness. Apparently, this twisting was causing wrong motion that I didn't want. And then we have some Z stiffness that is just a small adjustment. No IK stretch for this one, so it doesn't get to compete with this stretching. And this one, see, yeah, so this one, a very low value of IK stretch to this doesn't stretch, but this stretch and scratch a little. And this one, yeah, so this will do some adaptation, which is good. So it's not locked, but it has a lot of Y stiffness. Then the Z-axis, yeah, so it don't, yeah, just very minimal stuff here. And here, also I wanted to have a little apparently that helped. Of course, we need to see how the rig reacts on all sorts of posings, but this system is smart, so when you fix usually one direction, whatever, usually we can expect in many cases that it won't glitch the rest, right? So for example, here maybe we are see what the buttocks is doing. No, this is not the buttocks. So here maybe we lost something of quality because of the change that I've been making. So here maybe we get a good back bending of the leg, but the front bending maybe you'll have to compensate for what is happening here. Yeah, so this seems a problem that the system is not adapting very well in this particular circumstances, because this thing would like to, you see, it's not simple, it's tricky, but there are there are advantages, right? No, it's all built in one. So if you can find a setup that is working uh, for the most part, then this is like a miracle. And essentially, yeah, you start small, then you start to add some. It's also a problem with the waves here. I've also changed here and didn't verify. So this each one of them had a separated one. So this is why some things broke here. I have the backup, but I think it's good to check for me when I have time, and then an old backup, and then um, see if the results were so bad and see what was actually happening, for example, on here, and try to recover if that's the case. So I need to essentially revision as usual in many directions, but at some point I believe we can get something stable. And if you're not satisfied with with these 4 ones, maybe, or we can reduce. I tried to reduce, but then I found out the inner was, yeah, let's make an inner one, and that seems usable. That seems pretty handy. More work, but more handiness, more possibilities to make different shapes. And we could have another one, another chain that could perhaps adapt better to do what the buttocks this one doesn't do. I don't know. We can split the, right? So we could find many ways to solve this. So this is very, it's not super elegant, but if we get it working, then it's a very elegant system because it's all in one rig, right? And there's the helper, there's also the fan bones, which don't appear here, which they do their own job. So here, but I can say that at least we got reunited the shoulders Ike targets. Yeah, and I've checked this. We can actually make this extra bone, so maybe this could be useful. And now these are old notations. Should displace the depth hit? No. Why should I? It's not even part of this. Oh, I see why I mean that. Hmm. Yeah, but it is like, it's weird. Attention to like stretch, wrong scaling artifacts. Yeah, whatever. And so this is the yeah, revise previous system. Yeah, so this position is what I did for the shoulders, these ones, which actually are not, currently are not Yeah, they're called helper, but they are not deformed bones right now. They are not holding any waves. I'm gonna think maybe they deserve some waves, maybe not. And so by deleting some bones, maybe I broke some of the setup that I had, and that's why the maybe the glitch is not working as expected. Okay, let's see. Just so for today, that will be it, folks. But I let's see what we can. Yeah, then the some things about the face rig, the lower face. That yeah, some things that it's easy. It's just boring. Need to remember the steps. It's a Python code that's very scripted, very easy to build, sort of. That does some automation of refreshing a mesh just by clicking one button, and then the proxy mesh, and then checking some waves around the lower face that might matter. This is easy, and already make the puff cheeks and its automation for this expression. And then let's see if we're gonna see if we can make some uh, nice mouth shapes. I'm not remember if I can make the purse, but we'll try to mimic expressions as we can, and we try to verify if we can get good shapes through armature deformer, just posing. If you can get some expressions that usually are used for VRM mouth shape keys reference. I got inspired by those catalogs. I did some of my own, right? I've reproduced them manually to gain some experience what they represent. There are some documentation online, so now I'm interested maybe if I can place them on the character. At least to see if I can get how close I can get for just pick a few ones which I found that could be interesting to get. And then some facial pose assets at this point that would be very necessary. Custom shapes, so this is management. This is easy, maybe. Yeah, but let's skip it for the last. Costume rig. Yeah, so then costume rig, this is very important, but is associated with this. So let's actually do something else here. Because organization is key. What we have here, so space agent, we have this stuff to do. So this was a modeling thing. This one is, we have this the belt legging. Okay, this is the follows instep, and skirt helper bones. Yes, so this maybe it's priority, although super complicated. And then I have a plan, like so limit distance. transformation on constraint. Yeah, there is a tutorial from Eric Pico that shows some ideas of how to rig a skirt. Not exactly the skirt that the character would have, but something that maybe can help here. And the good thing is that apparently that method stacks with, could stack with bone physics. I use the free add-on, which is external, right? But it's free. It's the Wiggle 2, which unfortunately I think is not updated here, this version, but it should still work. I think maybe it had some bugs, critical bugs, I don't know. But the guy that makes it usually keeps in the management good, well enough. So Space Marine, then we have complete assets. Yeah, need to see what's missing. And then fantasy, yeah, this is big. There are more stuff here to build. Then retransfer waves for every single and then more space agent, no, nothing here. And yeah, this one is easy. Okay, so here this will save us some, help us think. So here we have UV texturing, skin text. Now this is for the body, and costume. Here we're gonna bring all this thing up. Skin tight clothing, masking for procedural. This is for all, right? Yes, all right. So there are a lot of things to do about the costumes. I prefer to leave them for them, but they are very important. But logically, because of the transfer waves and some other modeling stuff, it's better to do them later. Let's see. Let's bring this whole thing here to, yeah, let's place this here at the very end. Yeah, so that will take I think I can do this in maybe 2 weeks. I'm in a good rhythm. Every day I'm cleansing at least one of line, sometimes more, and so yeah, maybe more than 2 weeks, but the rig is getting more and more usable. Thanks for watching, folks, and take care. Have a nice week, and we can see you soon, maybe tomorrow. Enjoy.